The last time NASA opened the door, more than 8,000 people knocked. 8,000 engineers, fighter pilots, surgeons, scientists, every one of them already at the top of their field, every one of them dreaming of the same thing. NASA picked 10. 10. That's a rejection rate of about 99.9%, making it, by the numbers, harder to get into than any university on Earth, harder than nearly any job humans have ever competed for. In the entire history of the program, since 1959, NASA has chosen only around 370 astronauts, total, ever. So when someone says, follow these 10 steps and you can fly to space, there's a catch, and you should know it up front. Every step is a filter, and almost everyone gets filtered out. But the steps are real, they're public, and people do make it through all 10. So let's walk the actual path, the real, documented route from ordinary person to the launch pad. And I'll tell you exactly where the doors slam shut, and the one loophole that's quietly rewriting the whole thing at the end. Step 1. Step 1. Be a citizen and get the degree. For NASA, you must be a U.S. citizen. Dual citizenship counts. And you need a master's degree in a STEM field: engineering, biological science, physical science, computer science, or mathematics. Notice the word master's. A bachelor's used to be enough decades ago. It isn't anymore. The bar quietly rose as the applicant pool got more brutal. There are a few alternate routes that count instead: being partway through a relevant PhD, holding a medical degree, or completing test pilot school. But if your plan was be passionate and physically fit, step 1 already ends it. This is, first and foremost, a job for people who spent years mastering hard science. The romance comes later. Step 2. Get the experience. The degree alone isn't enough. You need at least 3 years of related professional experience after you finish it. Real work in your field at a high level. Or if you're going the pilot route, at least 1,000 hours of pilot in command time in jet aircraft. 3 years is the minimum. In reality, the people who get picked usually have far more. This is why the average age of a newly selected astronaut candidate is around 34, with past selections ranging from 26 to 46. Nobody becomes an astronaut at 22. You become one after you've already built an entire career being excellent at something else first. Step 3. Pass the body. There's a long-standing physical standard, and some of it is stranger than you'd expect. Your height has to fall within a specific window, roughly between 58.5 inches and 76 inches, because the spacecraft and suits are built to fit a certain range, and being too tall or too short literally means you don't fit the hardware. Your blood pressure has to be in range. Your eyesight has to be correctable to 20/20. And here's a modern twist. Laser eye surgery like LASIK, which used to be disqualifying, is now allowed, as long as it's been at least a year with no complications. Your body isn't just along for the ride. It has to pass inspection like a piece of flight equipment, because that's what it becomes. Step 4. Actually apply and brace yourself. When NASA is hiring, the job goes up on USAJOBS, the federal government's regular job site. That part is almost funny. The most exclusive job in the solar system is posted on the same website as every other government opening. You upload your resume and transcripts like any applicant. And then you join that pool of 8,000 plus. NASA only opens applications every few years on an as-needed basis, so the window itself is rare. This is the step where the overwhelming majority of people end, not because they did anything wrong, but because there are 10 seats and a small city's worth of qualified competition. And there's a quiet cruelty built into the rules here. NASA grants no waivers on the degree or experience requirements. None. It doesn't matter if you're a genius, a war hero, a billionaire, or the single most determined person who ever lived. If you're missing the masters, or you're a few months short on the experience when applications close, your file doesn't even enter the pool. The funnel doesn't bend for anyone. You either meet the hard requirements by the deadline, or the door simply never opens. That rigidity is part of why people spend literally a decade engineering their own resume toward this one job, often applying multiple times across multiple selection cycles, getting rejected, and trying again 4 years later. Step 5. Survive the interview. If you're among the tiny fraction who make the first cut, you get invited to NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston for interviews. This is no ordinary job interview. The selection board is reading you for things that don't show up on a resume. how you handle pressure, how you work in a team, whether they'd trust you sealed in a metal can with 5 other people for 6 months. Of the small group invited, only about half are asked back for a second round of interviews. The funnel is still narrowing, even now, even among the best of the best. Step 6. Pass the medical and the mind. For those still standing, the screening goes deep. Extensive medical examinations and psychological and psychiatric evaluation. This is where they look for anything that could fail in orbit. A hidden heart condition, a vulnerability that microgravity could turn dangerous, or a psychological trait that might crack under months of isolation and confinement. They are not just asking, are you healthy? They're asking, will this specific body and this specific mind hold together hundreds of kilometers above Earth with no way home for half a year? A lot of brilliant, fit, qualified people are turned away right here for things they never knew were a problem. And the reason they screen this hard becomes obvious once you understand what space actually does to a person. In weightlessness, the body starts to quietly fall apart. Without gravity pulling on them, bones lose density. Astronauts can shed bone mass at a rate far faster than osteoporosis on Earth, and muscles, including the heart, begin to waste away from disuse, which is why crews on the station strap into exercise machines for around 2 hours every single day just to slow the damage. Fluids that gravity normally pulls down into your legs float upward instead, puffing up the face and pressing on the eyes, subtly reshaping vision in ways scientists are still studying. Radiation, no longer filtered by the thick blanket of atmosphere we live under, steadily raises cancer risk. Space is not a neutral place you visit. It is an environment actively working to break the human body. And the medical screen exists because they need to send up people whose bodies can take the most punishment with the least failure. Step 7. Get the call and become a candidate. Make it through all of that and you're selected. But, and this matters, you're not an astronaut yet. You're an astronaut candidate. You report to Houston and you begin roughly 2 years of basic training before you're even eligible to be assigned a flight. The title you dreamed of is still 2 hard years away. And not everyone who starts this training finishes it. And a couple of details about this stage surprise almost everyone. First, there's no upper age limit. Past candidates have been selected as old as 46, and the famous physical you passed isn't a young person's fitness test so much as a nothing is wrong with you test. What matters is that your body has no hidden faults, not that you're 25. Second, and stranger, one of the things you'll have to learn is Russian. For decades, the International Space Station has been a joint operation, and the Russian Soyuz spacecraft and station systems run in Russian, so astronauts are required to become conversational in a brand new language on top of everything else. Imagine being a 40-year-old PhD rocket scientist who suddenly also has to pass language class. And through all of it, you're a federal employee earning a government salary, recently around $150,000 a year. For the hardest job on or off the planet, the pay is solid, professional, and remarkably ordinary. Nobody does this for the money. Step 8. Learn to work underwater. Here's where training gets surreal. To practice spacewalks, astronauts train in the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, a gigantic pool deep enough to submerge a full-size mock-up of the space station. In a weighted spacesuit, floating neutrally underwater mimics the weightlessness of space better than almost anything on Earth. Candidates spend hours submerged, rehearsing every motion of a spacewalk, because in real orbit, there are no do-overs. Before they even get in, they have to pass military water survival training, become scuba qualified, and swim laps in a flight suit and shoes. The path to the vacuum of space runs, strangely, straight through the bottom of a swimming pool. Step 9. Ride the machines that break your body in. Then there's the famous one, the Vomit Comet. It's an aircraft that flies in steep parabolas, climbing hard, then diving. And at the top of each arc, everyone inside floats, weightless, for around 20 to 25 seconds at a time. Do that over and over, and your inner ear rebels. The nickname is earned honestly. The program is so old, it predates NASA itself, and one of these planes has flown tens of thousands of these parabolas over its life. The very same kind of aircraft was even used to film the weightless scenes in the movie Apollo 13, with a fake spacecraft interior built inside the plane. Candidates use it to get their first real taste of microgravity. And on the other end of the spectrum is the centrifuge. a giant arm that spins you to simulate the crushing G-forces of launch and re-entry, pressing on you with several times your own body weight. Rides can reach around 6 times the force of gravity, the point where lifting your own hand feels nearly impossible, and tunnel vision creeps in at the edges. Alongside all this, learning to fly, or fly in T-38 jets, mastering the space station systems in full-scale mock-ups, robotics, and more. 2 years of turning a scientist into someone whose body and reflexes belong in space. Step 10. Wait, and finally fly. You finish training, you join the active astronaut corps, and then you wait. Becoming a qualified astronaut does not mean you launch next week. Flights are limited and assignments can be years apart, so newly minted astronauts spend that time supporting missions from the ground, advising on new spacecraft, backing up the crews already up there. Until, one day, the assignment comes. And only then, after the degree, the career, the physical, the 8,000 competitors, the interviews, the medical gauntlet, and the years of training and waiting, do you finally strap into a rocket. 10 steps, each one a door most people never get through. So that's the real path. It's not a dream you chase on enthusiasm. It's a decade-plus campaign of being elite at science, then surviving a filter designed to reject 999 out of every 1,000. But here's the twist I promised. There is now a completely different door, and it skips almost the entire list. Private companies have turned space into something you can, in effect, buy your way into. A suborbital hop, a few minutes touching the edge of space and feeling weightlessness, has been sold for sums in the low hundreds of thousands of dollars. And a real trip to orbit, to the actual space station for over a week, has been sold to private citizens for around $55 million a seat, with just a few months of training instead of years. No master's degree, no 3-year career requirement, no 8,000-person funnel, just the means to pay, a body healthy enough to fly, and a few weeks of preparation. And the gap between those two doors is shrinking in a way that would have been unthinkable a generation ago. The first fully private crews have already flown to the space station, paying their own way, trained in a matter of weeks rather than years. Suborbital tourism flights have carried ordinary paying passengers past the edge of space and back. These people are not astronaut candidates picked from thousands, they're customers. The training compresses from 2 years to a few months, precisely because they're not being asked to command the mission or fix the spacecraft. They just have to survive the ride and not panic. The hard path makes you the pilot. The expensive path makes you the passenger. For most of history, there was only the first door, and it was nearly impossible to walk through. Now the second door exists, and every year it gets a little wider, and slowly, a little cheaper. Which leaves a strange and very modern question hanging over the whole thing. For 70 years, going to space meant being one of the most rigorously selected human beings alive. 10 chosen out of thousands, forged through years of training. Now there are 2 doors to the same sky. One you earn over a lifetime of being the best, and one you simply purchase. The hard door still leads to the moon, to commanding missions, to doing the actual work of exploration. The easy door leads to the view. They both end with the same thing, the Earth, curved and blue beneath you. The only difference is what you had to become to get there.